Hey everybody, this is Phoebe Smith with Love Relationships Real Talk. So a viewer mentioned in the comments section that she's interested in learning more about how to do online dating. She's been thinking about doing online dating for several months, but she's kind of afraid because she doesn't want to meet weirdos. There are some weirdos out there online. So this is a very serious and realistic concern. So this episode is how to internet date smart and realistically. So over the years, I've determined that most people resort to online dating for one of three reasons. One is that it's a better resource to use than meeting people in real life, because when you meet people in real life, there's a whole nother set of questions that you have to go through in order to determine if this person is even available. And if you find someone online, you still need to ask questions to determine their relationship status, because there are people online who are not only seeing other people or with other people in long-term committed relationships or even married that make them completely unavailable. We have to weed them out still. However, you can assume that most people are single when they're on these websites. If they're not, you can determine that through these same strategies that I'm going to suggest to you. So people use online dating basically to get back into the dating game. So they haven't dated much, or they haven't dated in a while, and they need to hone their skills. They need to develop their ideals about what they're actually looking for, what's realistic out there, and how to socialize again in these intimate relationships and these opportunities where you have the opportunity to share more of your intimate self. Another reason why people do internet dating is because they're bored. They want to go on dates, and it's a lot easier to pick people off of a page on the computer than it is to go out into the world and actually introduce yourself and present yourself to someone. The factors around rejection are easier to receive if you're online and people skip over your picture, opposed to being out in real life and you notice face to face that someone doesn't like you, or they're not into you, or they don't want to talk to you anymore, or whatever the case is. It's just a much more easier interaction to happen, those initial phases in the relationship or getting to know someone, when it happens online. So I'm sure that's another reason why people use online dating. I'm sure that many of you can believe a statistic that a survey company that gathers data for dating sites like Christian.com, Tinder, or Match.com reported that 87% of the people participating online are not interested in being in a long-term relationship. So they're on a dating website, but they're not interested in being in a relationship. Well, this totally makes sense that there are 87% of people online dating who aren't really interested in a long-term relationship. So it totally makes sense that if you're online because you're bored and you basically just want to go on a whole bunch of dates or meet a whole bunch of people or try to, get other needs met through online dating, if you know what I mean, then you're going to find statistics like that, where these people really are not interested in a long-term relationship. They're doing it for a particular reason that centers around them being bored, which is a whole nother situation than wanting to be in a long-term relationship that takes work. But on the other side of that, if you're proactively looking for a love relationship, there's another piece of data that supports what can happen out of that. Another survey was given, and they were able to determine that 5% of Americans in 2014 had met their long-term partners or their husbands or their wives online. 5% of those people met those significant others online. That's a great statistic showing that online dating actually can work. But what that means to me then is that yes, you can find a long-term relationship with a person that you meet online. And also, you have to do a lot of weeding out in order to get to that person. So if you're willing to do that, it can be a really great resource. So if you're up for the job, here are a few tips that I believe are tried and true and will help you venture out and find love online. If you have children, you need to mention that fact in your profile, and you need to talk about it in a balanced way when you are sharing who you are, because a big part of who you are is a parent. And I know that for a lot of people working with clients who have children, that they are hesitant to share that piece of information with their prospective love. And in my opinion, it's best that they know from the jump street out the gate so that they can make an informed decision for themselves and not let them get engaged and enticed and attracted to who you are solely as an individual without this really big piece of information that they need to know. Because if this relationship does proceed into a long-term love relationship, they're going to be a part of your child's life. And it's best that they proceed in that relationship from the beginning, knowing that this is a possibility. Choose a website that is specific to your intentions. And again, this is where that list of non-negotiables or the things that you want to find in a person comes into play, because you've already created a mindset for what it is that you want to attract. And so when you go to choose a website, make sure that it's a website that is not too general, because if it's too general, then you're going to just be attracting a lot of people that are outside of your structures that you've created for what it is that you want. So it's kind of like you have a bunch of sheep and you want to corral a certain number of sheep or a specific type of sheep. And so you create a system that filters sheep into that area. You don't just open the gates and let all the sheep come in and then you have to figure out how to sort them later. So be specific in the site that you choose. And if it's too general, then you're going to have to go through a much more detailed and in-depth weeding process. If you're not willing to spend a specific amount of money on your membership, then you can't be pissed when you start attracting people that don't have the same level of intention or seriousness that you do. So if you go on a website that's free, you're going to be on a website with other people who have the mindset that finding a serious love relationship is not worth taking risk or paying for in some way or another. The other point that I want to make about being on a site that's too general is that we as human beings have this need for acceptance. And given that fact, we all have the tendency to reel in the first nibble that bites the hook. And so in that case, whenever we get someone who's attracted to us or wants to meet us, we're going to reel that person in, even though we may even notice that once that hook comes out of the water, that ocean litter is on it. We still might proceed in trying to get to know that person. So if the site's too general, we're going to pull out what we might not want. Now, there are some sites that are free, and there are some sites that cost an amount of money that you might think is a little pricey. But this is my rule for that. If you don't want to spend any money, then you can't be pissed when the guy or the girl you meet online doesn't have the funds or the sense to be generous or to be respectful. And also with these sites, you want to read the reviews and see what other people said about the people that they've met online. They'll tell you the truth. Now, these are some rules for online dating that are really hard for a lot of people. And I know this as a fact because when I coached people and they've used the online dating as a tool to meet their prospective love, these rules are really hard for most people to follow because people sort of do things in a rudimentary way. Like they've always done it this way and they continue to do it this way. And it's not giving them the results that they want. So these are some rules that I believe are tried and true. And when people do try them, they actually do get a different result. So my first rule is write. If someone sparks your attention, in order to get to know them, exchange emails over several days to get to know them in an insightful and intimate way. Writing is always a great indicator to find out more about a person because when you're writing, you are conscious about sharing substance, and also people can go back and read what they wrote, opposed to talking, which a lot of times comes out of nervousness. When you're first meeting someone, people are nervous. And so when they're talking, they're saying a lot of different things. So write to your prospective love. And also use it as an indicator. If they are not patient enough to go through this process with you to first write before they actually get to meet you, it might be an indicator as to what their intentions really are in being online. Also, as you're writing and getting to know your prospective love, you will be able to delve deeper into more significant topics when you do start a conversation on the telephone or when you meet them for the first time. Another rule that I have is what I call the 14-day rule. And basically for 2 weeks, you are to write, text, or whatever form of communication you've started with initially, that you continue to do that for 14 days. If after 14 days you want to exchange numbers or even meet up for a short coffee date, that's perfectly fine. But if that person cannot give you 2 weeks of getting to know who you are, then they're not serious. At least after just 14 days, you haven't invested yourself significantly with this person. You haven't wasted any time. You haven't given of yourself intimately. And therefore, after 14 days, you determine that this isn't a serious prospect, then you can walk away from that situation without having lost anything. If during this introductory period you find out that this is not the one for you, make a conscious choice not to proceed with this relationship and end things gracefully and respectfully. You know if your prospect is coming up short. Treat people the way you want to be treated and give them closure. Tell them why this didn't work for you. Talk. If you're serious, you'll follow any relationship coach's rule to wait for sex. If you want the relationship to last for any length of time, you will follow this rule and wait until everything looks as though it's pointing in the direction of something long-term. There are so many reasons and lasting impressions you give when you engage in sex prematurely. But the most important is that your actions in the first months of the relationship truly sets the tone for the extent of the relationship. So fill those intimate moments with opportunities to get to know each other in intimate ways that don't involve the physical. There are many ways that you can get to know someone intimately, and they are the things that set the foundation for the long-term dynamic that the relationship will need to build on. Practice honesty. Go into every interaction with the intention to practice being as honest as you could possibly be. This is truly a gift for anyone you interact with, even if it's only for one date. Honest and genuine interactions are parts of ourselves that we can give to another and leave an indelible impression on their lives. So give that gift. And in the end, Whether it works, you get the second date or you don't. And if you do get the second date, I have a video for that. If you get the second date or you don't, you will leave that relationship feeling good that you were able to open yourself up in such a way that that person got to meet someone who was genuine and honest with them and gave of themselves wholeheartedly in those moments that you spent with one another. So I hope this helps. I hope you'll try online dating. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Love Relationships Real Talk. And don't forget to like this video, comment in the comment section, and even better, subscribe to my channel.